Hello and welcome to another episode of John Collects Stamps. First of all, I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Today is Christmas Day. Now, you might be wondering what I'm doing recording on Christmas Day, but this year I found myself home alone for Christmas Day anyway. My sons are at their mother's for Christmas dinner, and I'll be having celebrations with them later in the week. It doesn't bother me at all being on my own. I live on my own, so I'm quite used to my own company. So yeah, I've spent the morning, messaging people, family and friends, and yeah, just having a nice relaxing day. And I've been doing a bit of work with some of my other albums, and I thought I'd dig this one out because this is something that I've not displayed as of yet. This is my collection of South African stamps. Now, I mainly focus my collecting on Great Britain, but there are a couple of other countries that I collect. South Africa is one, Southwest Africa, which is now Namibia, and Malta are probably the main other countries that I collect. I do collect others within the Commonwealth, and I do have a few other interests that I'm looking at expanding into, but today we're going to be focusing on the stamps of South Africa. Now, the reason I collect South Africa, my interest comes from the fact that I used to live in South Africa from 1982 to 1984. Between the ages of 11 and 14, I lived in South Africa. My dad had been made redundant in the UK. He worked in the steel industry. There was no work in that industry within Britain. People were unemployed. It was like highest levels of unemployment that we'd had for a long time. And the only way that people could find a way to survive was to emigrate, to take on work in other countries. So, yeah, we ended up in South Africa for 3 years. And it was an adventure of a lifetime for a kid. And, yeah, I was collecting stamps at the time. If you saw my previous episode, you'll have seen my childhood stamp album. Well, that would have gone with me to South Africa. I would have already had that and have been collecting at that point. And then I continued my collecting whilst living in South Africa. We were getting mail from family in the UK, so that was a great source of British stamps coming in. And what they used to do was, if we ever posted them anything back to the UK, they would cut off the South African stamps and they would send them back in the next letter they wrote. So yeah, I had a nice source of stamps at the time. So South Africa, the country of South Africa didn't exist as a political country until 1910, with the formation of the Union of South Africa. Up until that point, it was a series of colonies and provinces that had been to and fro in between different countries' rule. The Portuguese were there early doors. The Dutch moved in, and then also the British moved in, and there was no centralised government for the country. Like I say, everything was local territories and provinces. And that brings me to these stamps. So this is the Cape of Good Hope, which is the southern end of the country and the continent. And yeah, I am aware that there are some other stamps before these. There's a series of triangular Cape of Good Hope stamps which came out before this particular set. but they are quite expensive. They're high catalogue values on those, and that's probably something that I'm not going to be collecting. This is a rather simplified collection, because some of these stamps, there are so many varieties and variations, with watermarks, with papers, with issues, and it's an expensive area to collect from. As things move on through time, it's less so, but yeah, pre-Union of South Africa, some of the stamps can be very, very expensive. Just a warning to anybody who's looking at collecting this particular region. But yeah, we've got these up here that have got the figure of hope. Some more down here that are redrawn with, I think that's Table Mountain, the Table Bay in the background. Then I think these are quite a nice set, these Edward VII stamps. Let me just move the camera down so you can see those a little better. Yeah, so these are Edward VII. So these will have been between 1901 and 1910 during his reign in the UK. But I think these are really, really nice stamps. There's something about the stamps, I think, of Edward VII. I think they're just really, it's just a really nice design. And some of that continued into the George V era as well. That's how I view it. So that was Cape of Good Hope. If we move on, we've got another, I do apologise for the glare of that light. See if I can get that to move out of the way. Yeah, that's better. So this is Natal. So this is a province that is on the eastern coast of South Africa. You may have heard of places like Durban and Port Elizabeth. Well, they're in the province of Natal. So up here I've got some Queen Victoria issues, and then onto the Edward VII again. I think these are absolutely stunning, these bicolour Edward VII stamps. I think that's probably one of my favourite designs, and I think my favourite stamp out of all of these is this one here, the larger 5 shilling. I think that's definitely my my favourite. I think it's an absolutely beautiful stamp. If I just bring that up to the camera. In fact, let me get my black piece of card. It does make it easier to highlight these. But yeah, I think that's an absolutely beautiful stamp. You know, there seems to be an elegance in, especially the Edward VII designs. So there are other provinces that I don't have. Zululand is one, Mafeking is another one, the British military administration, I don't have any of those, so I've left some spaces, because again, like I say, some of those can be very expensive. Orange Free State, I've left a page for that. I don't have any of those. However, I do have, as you can see here, the Orange River Colony. And again, these are Edward VII. And again, it's that bicolour design. If we just show you on the 6penny one here, again, it's that nice bicolour printing design on that 6pence there. if you saw the giveaway episode last week when I showed the South African stamps, there were a few examples of these within that giveaway, some of the duplicates. Moving on to Transvaal. Yeah, so there's two periods of stamps here. There's these all a very similar design to this one. And then to follow on with the other provinces under British rule. Oh, that's a flimsy corner on that one. Be careful putting that in the stock book. Again, to follow suit, we have Edward VII, and again using that bicolour format, or even coloured papers. This one here is actually printed on red paper. If I turn that over, you'll see what I mean. I don't know if you can pick that up. It's not really showing it. I wonder if the artificial light, there we go. And that appears to have a remnant of a hinge on the back. But again, these classic, elegant Edward VII designs. One of my favourites. Then we move on to the 31st of May 1910, and this is the formation of the Union of South Africa, which is going to be the name of the country for the next 51 years. So by this point in 1910, George V is on the throne in Great Britain. So it's now his head that appears on this set of definitives. I'll just bring that down a little bit. And they then started to issue their own South African designs with a spring box here and set there with the ships. What you will notice with a lot of South African stamps of this era is they were printed separately in different languages. So the one on the left there, you can see South Africa is Afrikaans, and the one on the right is printed in English saying South Africa. And that's the way they produced a lot of their stamps. Later on they put both English and Afrikaans on the same stamp. Yeah, excuse me. So over here, that's a miniature sheet. That's from Johannesburg International Philately Exhibition from 1936. The set at the top of the page is, that's a George V Jubilee stamps from 1935, and again you can see there it's presented in both languages, Afrikaans and English. So very Very attractive stamps, I think. But still got that colonial British feel to them. Whereas later on, they start to adopt probably more of an African sort of feel to them. Now, these are some of the coronation issues for George VI. It's the Voortrekker commemoration. That's the Dutch settlers expanding their range within the country. And we've got these very small stamps here. You can see these are in blocks of 3. And again, in both languages, English and Afrikaans. These are from during the wartime. So there's several issues of those. And you've got some more commemoratives. You've got the royal visit stamps. I think these were one of the omnibus type designs from when King George VI, the Queen Mother and the princesses Elizabeth and Margaret visited Africa. I think they toured several nations, and I think the same design was used for several Commonwealth countries, or empire countries as they may have still been called at the time. So yeah, that's the Queen on the stamps there before she was the Queen. Then later issues move on, and you can see we've actually got Her Majesty the Queen on that one there. That's one of the examples I was saying. You can see here now they've got both languages on the same stamp. You know, a lot of these stamps are very easy to find. They're not expensive, they're not rare at all. These are still using pence. Then there's a nice set. This is a nice little set. The wildlife. These are the definitives. So you've got various designs there. You've got like a wildebeest, a zebra, rhinoceros, elephant, hippo, lion, antelopes, various kinds, giraffe. Yep, so those are still in British currency. And again, we're still in the Union of South Africa era. The celebrations there, the 50th anniversary of the Union. And another one. But you'll see here they've changed the currency to cents. So that's the same wildlife set that had been previously issued, only now it's in cents. So they've now adopted the rand as the currency. So it was 100 cents equal 1 South African rand. And then on the 31st of May 1961 is when South Africa left the Commonwealth and became the Republic of South Africa. and this was voted on a. I think this also coincided with the introduction of apartheid, or that may have come slightly earlier. I'd have to check the history on that. But yeah, these are all now showing Republic of South Africa on the stamps, rather than just South Africa. I can remember when we moved over there, I'd moved over in '82, and there was a huge celebration on. It was called the RSA 21, and the 21st birthday of the Republic, the 21st anniversary. So yeah, various issues here now into the 70s. Went through the 1970s. These are sets that I like, these coloured wildlife issues. And here's some interesting stamps. This set here, or these from a particular set here, and I think there's 4 up there as well. Those were the first stamps that I bought over the counter in South Africa. I went to the post office with my pocket money and I bought those. I did have them all mint. I think I've got a couple that are now used because, yeah, there's one up there that's used. My sister was writing home and she didn't have any stamps, so she went in my stamp album and stole the stamps so she could post some letters back to the UK, and she never replaced them with the mint ones. So that's why there's a few gaps there. Yeah, I'll let her off for that, you know, it's nice historic story. And moving on through the 80s now, and that's pretty much where it dries up in the 80s. I don't collect anything newer than the 1980s. But then if we look at the back here, I've got Southwest Africa, which is now Namibia since 1994. So yeah, the country was under South African jurisdiction from 1915, and all the early stamps for Southwest Africa were South African issues with an overprint. So if you can see here, these have all got Zuidwest Africa or Zuidwest Africa or SWA as an overprint, and then they started to produce their own stamps in 1930. So these are actually now saying Zuidwest and Southwest Africa, again in English and Afrikaans. These stamps are very easy to come by. That's the coronation set for George VI. In the pairs, each one's English, one's Afrikaans. And again, they've reverted here to some South African stamps with the SWA overprint. Those wartime stamps that we saw earlier in South Africa. So yeah, they've got the overprint, and mirroring that, we've also got the Royal Visit with SWA as an overprint. Yeah, I'm not quite sure for the reasoning behind that, because they had been producing their own stamps, but yeah, then they revert for a time back to the SWA overprints. And then another nice set of wildlife and indigenous people. More of the same. There is a set in here that I would like to show you. This is moving through the 70s now. Yeah, there's a nice miniature sheet there featuring whales. So Southwest Africa's on the Atlantic coast, so those will be Atlantic whales. But then this is my favourite set, and I did buy these when I was a kid. I got these from a stamp shop in South Africa in about 1983. This is the 1980 definitives, and it's this beautiful set of wildlife, which I think is absolutely stunning. It's probably one of my favourite sets of stamps that I've ever seen. I just think the paintings on these are brilliant, and it's got my favourite animal on there, which is the cheetah. I was lucky enough as a kid to twice visit a cheetah sanctuary in a place called Loskop, which is in the Transvaal, and it was a guy who he rescued orphaned cheetahs where the mothers had been poached, and he reared them semi-wild to get them back into the wild, but you could actually walk freely amongst them in the pen, and you could sit down. I've got a nice photograph of me sat down with a cheetah and stroking it, just like it's a family pet. And yeah, I think he had a gun, or one of his assistants had a gun, and he had a big stick, and that was his deterrent for the cheetahs, I think, if they try biting. But yeah, that's my Southwest Africa. I don't collect Namibia, so essentially this is now the end of Southwest Africa. So it is rather a finite collection, Southwest Africa, because after this date the stamps would have then become Namibia. Now, as I say, my main focus of collecting is Great Britain, and I don't know that much about these stamps. I'm still on a learning curve, especially with the older, with the older pre-Union of South Africa stamps. Now, this is a great source. This is the Commonwealth and British Empire Stanley Gibbons catalogue. Now, this has all the South African provinces. So it has Cape of Good Hope. It has some of the others: British Kaffraria, Mafeking Siege, Freiburg, Griqualand, Natal, New Republic, Orange Free State, Transvaal. So yeah, it's very in depth. As you can see, there's 3 columns on each page of this catalogue. Zululand, and then here it gets into the Union of South Africa. So if you want a resource for South African stamps, especially the early ones of that era, Then this is the catalogue. And it also, this has every other Commonwealth country, and it does the same for Australia, where it has the all the individual states stamps from before the Federation and when they became the Commonwealth of Australia. So yeah, it's a very handy piece of kit to have. I've discussed this on another video. I said I picked this up for £10 on eBay because it was an older catalogue, and obviously the catalogue values are out of date, but that doesn't matter because I don't collect for the value. I collect stamps for the fun and for the interest. So anyway, I hope you found this remotely interesting. If you have, please click the like button and consider giving me a subscribe. I've noticed from the analytics that roughly 80% of my viewers aren't subscribers, so I would like to build a channel, and it does help the algorithm if you become a subscriber. So like I said, please consider, and if you'd like to, then please subscribe. I'll be bringing you more content over the next week or so. I'm off work now for a week. I don't go back to work till the 3rd of January. So I've got some free time this week, and I'm going to be making a couple more videos during the week. So that's something to look forward to. I'm not sure what the topics will be, but as I've said, I hope you have a Merry Christmas. I hope you're having a good day, and I hope you and your families are all well and everybody's happy with what they got for Christmas. I'm happy with my present. I bought myself a new computer chair, and I bought myself a couple of PC games, so that's the rest of my afternoon sorted. So again, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.